but I really feel like the challenge here is to take a breath and keep it simple for you men, because the days are continuing and things are getting more and more evil or blurry or fuzzy and tough to navigate. And we just need some lighthouses on the coastline. We need the lighthouse man to show up and just flick on the light and not make it any crazier than that. So I want to be one of those lighthouses on the coastline, because I don't want men to get shipwrecked. I don't want men to drown as they navigate up and down the coast. And so I just want to share on the onset here that my heart is purely to be simply helpful. And so I appreciate right out of the gate for you bearing with me and just recognizing where I have strengths, recognizing where I'm weak, and overall, we all need God's grace to do what He's called us to do. So with that being said, I want to share the vision for it at the moment, and we'll see where it goes from here. I already did some research, so there is a clothing line that is similar. So we're going to go in a more subtle direction and not a bold direction as far as the branding goes or the name. So yeah, the idea that I've had is when you go to the doctor and you have your annual physical as a man, they have you check a box. Are you active in your life? Do you have an active lifestyle? Or do you have to check that dreaded box, sedentary lifestyle? And I thought about the word sedentary, and I'm like, man, what a gross word for a man that you would have to admit. And I used to have to check the box. I used to be that guy where I would go into my physical and I'd be like, wow, I am not moving in my life, like physically. And trust me, if you're not moving physically, you're probably not moving in a lot of other areas, and you're growing stagnant because you're living this gross sedentary lifestyle. You're passive as a man. You're not active or intentional. So I've come to conclude that one of the biggest enemies of true biblical manhood is passivity. Jesus was the most deliberate and dedicated and intentional man to ever walk the face of the earth. So I believe that our enemy, our culture, the world, they want men to be stagnant. They want men to check the sedentary lifestyle box, because you're not a threat if you have to do that. You might not be dead, but you're basically a dead man walking. You're a zombie in this world, and you're not effective. You're not a threat. You're not dangerous. You're not a problem. And God calls us to be all those things. He wants us to be rebels, problems, dangerous. He wants us to be enlisted as good soldiers of Christ who are going to endure hardships. The Bible is very clear about endurance and vigilance and sober-mindedness and self-control. These are all things that are sourced in the Spirit, but they need to be present in the life of a man. And so that's kind of where I want to dive deep with you. I want to provide resources. And by resources, I mean ideas, devotionals, podcasts, interviews, you name it. The sky's the limit. But again, keeping it simple and consistent and helpful. So I've come up with this idea, stagnation. And that's the phrase that I've latched onto, or that's the word that I've latched onto, is stagnation. So what do I mean by that? Initially I wanted to go like full on stagnation. Like that was my initial thought. But as I chewed on it more, I think that's a little too on the nose. I think we have a lot of ministries out there that are very, stagnation. Like they're very, they're creative, but they're a little too, I don't know. I think on the nose is the only phrase I can think of, but like too obvious, and the emphasis is wrong. Then the emphasis is like our group. That shouldn't be the emphasis. The emphasis should be on the biblical help that God offers men. And so I created an acronym, STAG, and put it in the word, or found it in the word stagnation. What we're trying to avoid as men of God is stagnation. That's what we do not want. That's anathema. That is the antithesis of what we're striving for. But it can sneak up on us. It can subtly creep in. It can toxify everything in your life. It can just like lead poisoning in water. It can just seep into your pores and just affect. It's like radioactive. Next thing you know, you're completely infected. So to avoid that, you got to be intentional. And so you got to pay attention to what God's given us. And what has he given us? So I created that acronym STAG, S-T-A-G.